Hello, hello, hello. It's Jeremy Gryder, the e-commerce redneck. And today I have got some really special guests. I've got Marc Nathan, who is with Wake Up CPG, and it's an organization for people in CPG. We're going to talk about that today. And we also have Oli Pettigrew on here, who is a influencer, works with a lot of different brands, the likes of HEB, Shiner Bock, but he also likes to work with a lot of these smaller brands too. So without any further ado, Marc, why don't you kick it off and kind of tell us a little bit more about what's going on with Wake Up CPG and what you're doing?
Well, thank you, Jeremy, and welcome, Ollie. Really do appreciate you having me on. I love talking about things, and you'll tell that I like to talk anyway, so this is a big thing for me, so I appreciate it. So I've been doing a thing called Wake Up CPG now for 10 years. What it is, very simply, it is the largest meetup of CPG brands, investors, and service providers that happens in Texas every month. We're doing it every single month. We skipped COVID, of course, but we came back pretty strong after COVID ended. And we get anywhere between 80 to 120 people every single month on the fourth Thursdays in the morning to talk, hang out, and discuss CPG brands.
Awesome, awesome. And what kind of brands have you seen come out of there? What kind of brands have come out of the Wake Up CPG and the Austin movement of CPG?
Well, that's a great question. And Austin, as most people know in the CPG world, really has become the largest area of emerging brands in the United States. For many years, most people thought of Boulder, Colorado as being the epicenter of early stage brands, and it was for a long time, and they're great. But about 10 years ago, and I'm not saying that me starting what I did correlated, but it just so happened this way, that we just started seeing a lot of brands. So Austin's been very, very, very fortunate that most people, when they think of Austin, they think of three things: barbecue, tacos, and tech. But CPG has been really underserved and underwhelmed from a media perspective. And by pure dumb luck, I got caught up in some CPG folks and realized that we had a great community here, but nobody was talking to each other. And I helped gather a lot of people. There's other organizations here in town that do a great job as well. But generally speaking, you asked me a question about what great brands I've seen. Well, I watched Siete Foods grow from must be nutty tortillas to a giant multi-billion-dollar exit. I watched
Wow.
I watched another company that most people know now called Poppy move from Dallas to Austin after a really big Shark Tank appearance and sell.
Is that the soda drinks?
Sure is.
Those are great.
And they
Yeah.
only sold for 1.95 billion to Pepsi.
Heck yeah.
Another absolutely incredible brand that had a really big exit very recently in the last few months is a group called Beatbox Beverages, which is essentially, and they hate when I say this, but it's true, it's boxed wine, but for sorority girls. And
Well, I've seen those. Yeah.
they've done quite well to the point where they just sold for $500 million, just under $500 million to a little company called Anheuser-Busch, AB and InBev.
Wow.
I feel like I need to start some sort of drink company.
Absolutely. Well, honestly, Ollie, yes. And the truth is that there's lots of drinks here. We've got some great companies that are on the emerging side. One that is really top of mind is called Bowie, Bawi, and they're a canned agua fresca. Another canned agua fresca local here is Celzo, run by two ladies who are absolutely phenomenal. I'm a big fan of some of the children's brands here that I'm seeing. Eat Hundy, which is push pop popsicles, but made out of pure fruit. We've got a company called Jubilees, which is making milk that's sweetened with vegetables, so there's no added sugar, but it's better for everybody. It goes on and on and on. And we have
There's a lot of health related brands or quality brand related brands coming out of Austin. That's what I'm really impressed with.
absolutely fitness, wellness, and health are really big deals here. We've got some really fun brands that add a lot of what we call better for you brands. And better for you is better than Doritos and Coca-Cola, which is not hard to be better than.
Yeah.
You know what, Mark? I came down on one of those. It was like I was impressed by just how many people and how many brands were there. But for these sort of like these brands or these smaller brands, what is some of like the biggest sort of like barriers for them to start taking the next steps necessary to eventually get to one of those success stories?
Great question, Ollie. And you personally are the answer. Here's the answer. It's awareness.
Yeah.
The fact is that there's people right now, while we're sitting here talking and recording this podcast, that are making something in their garage or making something in their kitchen or making something in their bathtub that tastes delicious. It's better for you, great ingredients, but outside of their house, nobody knows it. So building awareness for these brands and building the brand narrative and building the story around it, that's really critical. And that's what a lot of these companies are missing just because they're brand new. They're hard to get out there.
See, cause I see that. I mean, I do see that. I see that a lot with sort of all of these different people that I'm working with. Whether I'm working with cities or like from a tourism perspective or events that are being put on. And like I said, I'm working with energy companies and I'm working with all kinds of other stuff for like, even restaurants and stuff, is that, I'm constantly asking them when I'm talking to them is like, what are you doing with your social media? Because people come to me and they do work with me. Sometimes I'll partner up, and kind of like Jeremy described it to me is like, it's a little bit working with me is like getting a shot in the arm. It's like, I can give you a boost. I can give you a launch, but you kind of have to also then, what are you going to do tomorrow is kind of an important question. Cause I feel like people aren't using their social media correctly, or they're not using it enough. And like, I think I remember we were all out at dinner and like, Mark, I think the point I brought up with a bunch of people is, you remember back in the day, you couldn't name a single CEO, whereas now just the random person on the street can name CEOs of these companies and these major companies and things like that for good reasons or for bad reasons. And I feel like, I think personally that I'm always advising people like with their brands, be it big or small. I said, you've got to put your face out there. I spend so much time when I'm in meetings, like trying to sometimes convince these people to stop thinking the old way. They're like, no, we need to get a billboard, or we need to get a local media hit, or we need to, get something in a magazine or something like that. And I'm always telling them like the internet, social media is completely unlimited. And like, I've had a couple of perfect examples recently happen where I just did small partnership videos with a tapas restaurant in Waco and a barbecue restaurant, Hellberg Barbecue, one of the top 50 here in Texas. Simple videos. I get these messages and I send it to them because like my record for the longest distance that someone came because of my video to go to Segovia was the Netherlands, because someone saw the video there. They were planning a trip. The algorithm kicked it to them and they made a specific. And then just yesterday, I think I had it on my story. I had a message from someone saying, I saw the burger video from Hellberg. And they said, we've got people coming in from 3 different states and we're all renting an Airbnb near Waco just to go because of that video. And these are the examples I'm always telling, even the small brands. Like I said, these were just local businesses that I did a little video for, a little partnership, and you're getting this kind of massive reach. And I feel like it's such an underutilized thing that so many of these sort of brands, when I met them, I'm like, well, what are you doing with your socials? And they go, oh, well, I'm so busy. I'm so busy with this. I'm so busy with that. And I'm like, for me, social media is not the thing that you should be doing after everything else. It should be one of your biggest priorities.
Yeah, it's really huge with CPGs too, because it's a unique story a lot of times, like with Poppy, for instance, or a brand like that, a healthier soda, that it's something that parents want. I know I buy those for my 14-year-old all the time, because I don't want him drinking nasty sodas. So, I think the more sociable the brand is too, the more that applies.
And I agree with you both.
Yeah. I mean, think about it like you were saying from Shark Tank, right? I mean, just getting on Shark Tank is such a huge opportunity from, they say it's, it's worth millions of ad dollars just from getting an appearance.
I'd like to dive into that. I have heard, and this is probably a few years old by now, but I've heard that an 8-minute segment on Shark Tank that's aired on the proper night, whether it's Wednesday night or Friday night, the first time it's run, and nobody's ever seen this deal before, is worth between $4 to $6 million in ad sales. There's an actual number behind it. I know that it's true. We have lots and lots and lots of Austin and Texas brands that get on Shark Tank. At one point, I believe it was 2022, if I'm not mistaken, when Shark Tank came back on the air from January to February. So let's call it 6 weeks out of January and February. We had at least one single Austin company on every single episode of Shark Tank. But to your point directly, it is about awareness, about putting eyes on the product. If it's better for you and it tastes better, looks better, it's cheaper, all that's great. But if they don't know about it, they can't buy it. And you help buy it.
I mean, another side of that, as well as kind of something that Jeremy just mentioned as well, which kind of crosses over with the whole like Shark Tank thing, but is telling the story. I very often when I'm talking to these people, I go, no, let's find your story. Let's tell your story. Let's actually get some human investment and interest in your brand outside of just like we're trying to sell it. Sometimes it's a fascinating story of, we started it in this little garage, or we're doing it because some tragedy happened or something. You find that sort of human interest. And like I said, I think that putting a face to a brand is so valuable, because what people then do, at least in my opinion, is they personally invest in that brand, in that company. Like, look at just the way that people like Texans feel personally connected to just HEB. Like, they will die for that brand. I've never seen a sort of relationship between a brand and a people.
Ride or
Like,
die, man.
I'm the same way. As a Texan, I feel the exact same way. I don't know how to think about it. I agree.
And so I think that like people need to tell their stories. I honestly, like I said, I know I'm going to be like, I know I'm the social media guy. I wasn't always, for 17 years, I was a television host. And I was like going out and finding the story, finding the interest, finding what's going to be your unique selling proposition, what's going to be that unique thing about you or that person. And I think that exactly the same theory works when it comes to social media. When I do my sort of sponsored videos, there's always a funny angle and like an exploratory angle. And like we have, a story in there that's not just here, buy this brand. It's let's find the thing that's interesting and funny and shareable. Because like, I think I told you guys, like my theory of a social, like, what makes a video viral? Any viral video is a video that elicits any emotional response, irrelevant of what that emotion is, because then people share that video because they want that emotion reflected back on them from their friends and their followers. You see something hilarious, you're like, I see this, ha ha ha, right? Or you're angry, but it's like the thing to sort of jump into with these brands is find the interesting, the ooh, the wow, did you know that? Once you've got that, you're sending it and people are like, oh, that is interesting. And you're kind of creating your own virality. And like I said, it's right at everyone's fingertips. This is my entire production studio for my entire business is this phone. And
for
it's
our
like
audio listeners, he's holding up a very regular iPhone that everybody has in their pocket. And it's true.
Yeah.
Full-blown studio.
I mean, I even use a free version of CapCut. Like I just don't update it because it gives me free subtitles. But I'm like, it's my whole thing is sometimes I feel like I'm tearing my hair out for people. I go, well, there's the answer. It's right in front of you.
Yeah. Well, how have you seen, Mark, in that journey, how have you seen people really succeed in e-commerce? Like, where have you seen some brands that have just really killed it in e-commerce and figured out? Because I feel like, getting your brand out there, getting it on shelves is one thing. Getting it on the internet and getting it straight to homes is a whole other bag. So what are some companies, maybe your results that you've seen here locally?
We've got one that I think you know pretty well. It's a clothing company called Elastique. And this is a brilliant company run by a dear friend of mine, a lovely French woman named Emmeline, who basically came up with the idea of putting bumps inside of yoga pants that actually massage lymphatic nodes, which essentially clinically claims to reduce cellulite in women by just wearing these yoga pants. That is the most no-brainer call to action I've ever seen in my entire life. There's no price that people wouldn't pay to lose weight by doing nothing but wearing pants. And I think they've done quite well with a balance of both retail and online. Would you agree, Jeremy?
Well, I think, yeah, and I think, they're obviously using Shopify, which is an incredible tool. I helped build the company Big Commerce. I was one of the early employees there, but I have slowly transitioned over to where I am real big on Shopify, and there are so many new tools that are built in with AI. I mean, Mark, for somebody that's never experienced e-commerce at all, and they get into the back end of Shopify and they're like, what is my profit margins? Oh, how do I tell that? Like, what is this? What is this? You can go into the analytics and go into the AI on it and ask it any question and it'll produce those analytics. It's insane not to use Shopify if you can. And, there are other tools that are coming up as well in the more specific, like Magento style, old school Magento style custom stuff, which is like Shopware, which is also was built in 2019. And it's very easy to manipulate. A lot of those people that have to use those type of systems really cling to that. So yeah, I'm excited about what's going on in CPG for e-commerce and the tools that are there and the automations that are there. They can shrink your team.
That's right. And I think that no conversation would be complete in 2026 without talking about AI. So
Yeah.
we're seeing a lot of AI native tools. We're not necessarily seeing AI native brands yet, but I think that's coming, which means that I think that there's going to be a time, and we're going to hear about this soon. Somebody somewhere is going to come up with an idea that they're going to put into something like Claude Cowork, and they're going to say, build me the brand. And they're going to have a physical item on their desk without them touching anything, probably within
Hmm.
6 to 12 months.
That's crazy.
It's crazy,
Yes.
but it will happen. And here's the thing, and you both know this. It's not about the product, it's about the demand. If there's a demand for something, you could sell it, especially on e-commerce where you could do print on demand and make on demand, which means there's no inventory carrying costs.
Well, yeah, yeah. I mean, there's so many tools, and even now, I always tell people, if you want a custom design, AI has made it so much easier to get what you need very specifically, something that will work very well and be completely custom using the AI. And so that's how I'm helping people now with starting stores is I try to keep their costs down and then, get them up on Shopify and get them moving with all the right tools.
That's critically important because there's no AI out there that can tell you how to do something. It can only tell you what to do.
Hmm.
What are some of the key mistakes that you guys see people making? Things that other people should like you've seen these people do it, this is the thing you need to avoid.
This is what I talk about. I try to yank the steering wheel away from somebody when they're driving into a pothole. So here's some of the potholes. Number one, they overthink their brand. They get down into the weeds of color shading and logos and what's the copy and all that. At the end of the day, and this is something I learned in the 10 years or so I've been in CPG and a lot longer than that in regular business. But the very, very, very bottom line is that whatever your product is, it has to taste good. And if it's not a physical product that you eat, it has to look good. The aesthetic itself, how it tastes, how it feels, how it looks, it really is number 1, 2, and 3 on the top 5 things that are important. The other 2 things that are important out of taste, it's price and then function. What does it do for me? What does it do for you? So some of the biggest potholes are thinking that just because you like it, other people are going to like something. And
Hmm.
people are going to pay for it because they say they're going to pay for it. Those 2 things are very different things. So if somebody says they're going to pay for it, that's one thing. Somebody actually pays for it, that's another.
Right.
So really focusing on what the actual buyer signals are, that's what takes the time. All startups, whether they're consumer packaged goods or software or construction or anything, experimental organizations, they're learning groups. They're learning loops. They're trying to decide what works, what doesn't. With physical goods, it's the best part of it. You get to actually taste something and know instantly if you like it or not, and if you think other people will like it or not. That's why so many CPG deals get to Shark Tank so quickly.
Never thought about it that way. It's like, but it
That's
makes perfect sense. I'm just like, well, you get the immediate
yeah.
like connection to the brand, but
The
through
minute
just your
you
taste
see a
buds.
brand, let's call it a drink, a food, something. The minute you see the package, you know instantly what you expect. What you expect it to taste like, what you expect it to shape
Hmm.
like, what the color's supposed to be, how sweet, sour, meaty, whatever that might be. You know by instantly seconds only what the brand should look like and what it should be for you. And then you open up and put it in your mouth, and then your expectations are either absolved. They said, yes, you're right. You were right about your expectation, or they're completely thrown for a loop. And then you decide if that missed expectation is a good thing or a bad thing. If I
Yeah, I mean,
open up,
it must be so hard. For me, I'm just like, it's not like the industry is filled. There's with food and drinks and snacks and breakfast things and like, how do you stand out like in that? I mean, like I said, you're saying the taste and the branding, but like how, like for these brands who are coming, like to Wake Up CPG and stuff like that, is like, how do you stand up above the rest?
that's exactly what we talked about earlier. So the table stakes or whatever the product says it is, it's got to be good enough to be on the shelf, number one. But you said it yourself earlier. It's about awareness. It's about telling the story. It's about the narrative. It's about why this is good, why this is better. Why should I buy this? Why should I buy this over the exact same product next to it on the shelf? Why should I buy this against something else that might be a replacement? The consumer CPG world is a very fickle business, and there's
Hmm.
trends and there's definitely lines of activity. People say yes and no to lots of different things. And we're talking about people here, which means taste change.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like another barrier, like when I was talking with some of these people, is like, it just, their margins are so like small when they're trying to grow that like they even just freeing up $1,000, $2,000, $5,000 is sometimes almost sort of impossible for them to do.
Yes. Yeah, even when it's inexpensive social media, let's say $2,500, $5,000. When I say it out loud, it doesn't sound like a lot of money, but when you're actually doing that against all the other things you have to do and how tight the margins are, as you mentioned, and how very little money there is, it's really hard to make those decisions. And the truth is, and this is the hardest part, there is a 95% failure rate in the first 2 years of most CPG brands. There's lots and lots of things that get to the market, but they don't stay in the market. And it's a shame, but that's more often than not the case.
Well, and I feel like here, though, there is also a lot of VC type stuff going on to help out every once in a while with the financial. So if you can make enough noise
Yes.
and get in front of the right people with a good business plan, the trajectory can speed up extremely fast as well.
And that's one great thing about the CPG market. There's only one thing that matters. There's only one metric that people really care about on the finance side, and that's called shelf velocity. It's how fast can I sell something to a store or online and get it off the shelf. So if you could sell a case of what you're ever selling a week in a big store, or you sell a case in a month, those two differences basically make or break brands. In order to get to those shelf stability and get to the velocity that most people need to stay on the shelf and for the companies to reorder, you've got to do a lot of promotion. And that's in-store sampling, that's all the social media, that's all the stories. A lot of brand collaborations are happening right now to leverage individual brands. But yeah, it's getting the awareness out there because otherwise these things rot on shelves and it's a horrible thing to watch.
You know, something I've actually been talking a lot about recently with a lot of clients is, you know, I've really found that, you know, I've been doing this 3 years now, and we've kind of gone from 0 to 1,000 followers, which is like
Amazing.
great. And my brand recognition is fantastic. But what I've found has actually been quite beneficial to people that I work with is that each of these social media is like very different, right? So I post to YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. And like I find TikTok to be very unreliable. You
Sure.
know, especially since it's been bought, you know, by America. It's strange. It's they're using AI now to analyze the first 6 seconds of your video, and it's got absolutely nothing to do with your follower count. So I've got like, you know, just under 100,000 on TikTok. I had a video the other day that was just lighting up. Like it was like, oh man, we got 70,000 on Facebook, got 50,000 on Instagram just today, and we had 40 views on TikTok. And so, but the thing about TikTok is it lives and dies in a day. You know, like it's there and it's gone. Facebook and Instagram, the way their algorithm works, it keeps kicking these videos back around and around and around. And that's another thing that I'll tell people, like when, you know, it's not like buying a commercial. You know, you're not getting a 30-second hit during the Super Bowl. You're there and it's gone. The video sticks around and then the algorithm brings it back around as well. So I've had videos that got their initial 50, 80, 100,000 views. And I kind of still getting notifications on them. And I go back and I'm like, when did this hit 1 million? Like, it's kind of like, so I tell brands that for me, when I'm recommending, I say Facebook and Instagram are the most valuable to a brand. Because not only do we get that constant cycle, like, you know, it's there for years, you can then sort of, I'll partner up with them and we do whitelisting. So basically then they start using my video as their ad because my videos are good. I'm going to say it. I'm good at what I do. And I can put some very sort of like entertaining videos to do with their brands. But like for quite a small, kind of like you were saying, Mark, is like that $2,000, that $5,000, if you combine that into a video where you've partnered up with maybe like an influencer like myself, but there's many, but then on top of that is whitelisting that and using it as your ad. Like I've done that with, like I said, all the way from the HEBs all the way down to just like a company that is one person. And it's like, but they take that opportunity. And like I said, I think those videos, I mean, the views I've had on some of those are, you know, just stunning, like 20 million.
And those views translate to direct sales, especially in the CPG market. You can tell. And that's the greatest part about the feedback loop. But you're right, Ollie. The fact is that you have your own personal brand that you can leverage other brands to really increase their audience while you're actually increasing yours. It's a virtuous cycle and it's very cool to watch.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm really excited about started coming about I guess a year and a half ago to your events, something like that, and maybe two now. And Wake Up CPG is one of my favorite events every month. I always try to get there. I just think it's super rewarding. One of the things I would say is there's a lot of people there that do different things that can help you with every aspect of your business, from accounting people to people like me to help with the e-commerce, people like Ollie that help with social. I think you can find as a CPG brand or as somebody looking in as an entrepreneur to start a new brand. If you want to start figuring things out, go to Wake Up CPG, and it's really easy to remember. It's always what, the fourth Thursday, right?
Bingo, you nailed it.
So, and it's at Cosmic Pickle on, what is the street?
It's the most Austin
Pickle
sounding
Drive.
place.
I always remember it's 121 Pickle Drive. I love saying it.
Okay, yeah, right off of South Congress. It's
Yeah.
a great spot, and come rain or shine, we're always there, and tons of people. It seems like it's growing still, and we're getting a lot of momentum. Is there anything before we jump off, guys, either one of y'all that y'all wanted to mention or talk about before we jump off the call?
I'll do
Honestly,
mine easily because I want to really hear about what Ollie's pushing. But the one thing I think I'd like to discuss is something called TexasCPG.org.
Okay.
TexasCPG.org is a platform that we're launching specifically to source all the different events going on in the CPG market in Texas. It will also be a directory of service providers and brands that we can all search for each other and find out what we need, exactly like Jeremy was talking about. The third thing it's going to eventually do, it's not there yet, is will be a job board for Texas CPG brands. So essentially a community platform started by the people that started Wake Up CPG, me, a group out of Houston. That's the other Wake Up CPG. That's Max Kunnick and my good friend Tim DeSilva. We've got the guys from Dallas at Dallas, DFW CPG. That's Derek Ramos. And of course, San Antonio CPG. We have Andrew Anguiano, and Kira Heiser, who are really standing that up. Plus, we have a handful of other really great board members. Matthew Gase here in Austin, Michelle Breyer here. Ultimately, it will be a resource for anybody that wants to either sell or make a CPG brand here in Texas.
Excellent.
Sounds like a great idea, actually. Yeah, well, for me, I mean, outside of like just, the easiest way to find me is just that Englishman in Texas. You can find me. It's just that Englishman in Texas at gmail.com. This is now outside like DMs. It's just every day. This is just my inbox is people coming to me and approaching and saying, can you help? Can you help? Can you help? But there's another level that I think I'm I'm moving into now. And it comes from having these sort of meetings where I'm talking to these guys. These are guys who've got business degrees, MBAs, all this kind of stuff. And I'm chatting to them and I'm sort of saying this stuff, which to me is just, it's so obvious.
Common sense to you.
And I realize I'm blowing their minds. And I realize there's a huge sort of like hole in a lot of people's sort of approach and plan. So it's like basically that if you're looking for some help or things like that, I'm getting into consulting to come and sort of like sit down, talk through your strategy, do a sort of like an audit of the ads that people are putting out. Because I was talking to these guys and they're like, our ads don't work. And I'm looking at them, I go, yeah, it's because they suck. And it's like, but there's a very, very simple sort of like framework to sort of move forward. And like, I always say I've got these sort of 3 questions. All I need is, what do you want to say? Who do you want to say it to? And what's your budget? If I can have the answer to those 3 questions, I can build anything for you on any scale that you want. So if you're working with a company or you're feeling like you need a little bit of help, I'm also offering that as a service. Like, let me come in. I can, either I can help you out, either we can become a part of it, or I can even do it from an hourly perspective. But I realize that so many people don't know this stuff. And I'm happy to share.
Well, then, you are already texting because you're a give first kind of guy. We really appreciate that.
Man, I love being here. That's why I got the adopted Texan shirt on right now.
I love that.
Yeah, well, guys, we're all going to be at the Wake Up CPG on May 28th. We'd love for y'all to come out and meet us and talk to us. We're all very approachable and love talking to people, love helping people out, number one. One thing I'll say about Marc and Oli both is they both have a servant's heart and a good attitude about what they do and treat people right. And come out and see us and be a part of Wake Up CPG here in Austin. We look forward to seeing you soon. Bye, guys.
Thanks, Justin. Thanks, Marc.